Hi, this is Jeff Blauette, technical agronomist with Cooperative Farmers Elevator, and in this week's Field Friday segment, I thought we'd start looking towards the 22 crop here. You know, we're out in a field here. Obviously the beans are out. We've got a lot of beans that have come out. The harvest is really rapidly moving along here. So we're always kind of looking towards what's next, and this year, right this time of year, it's the next year's crop management. Once we get beans out, I know I've seen a lot already. We've got manure going on. We haven't really started with any anhydrous yet, but when we have manure going on, any of these products that we're looking at applying here this fall for next year's crop, we first want to be thinking about anything that's containing nitrogen has some concerns we need to be aware of. A lot of this manure that's going on now, I understand the logistics behind that. We all do, that this has to get done and there's logistics involved, but I'm a little concerned our soil temperatures today are still quite warm. We've had soil temperatures anywhere from 60 to 70 degrees here within the last few days, and that's a concern as far as what happens to that nitrogen that's in that manure or any fertilizers that are applied, if they're applied by now. Anytime our soils are above 50 degrees, the microbial activity in the soil is quite vibrant, especially as we get towards 70. So what that's doing is that's going to convert all the nitrogen that's going to be applied to a more mobile, or the mobile form, which is nitrate. Nitrate has a negative charge, soils have a negative charge, so there's not any attraction to that. That's why they move with water so well. If we can keep any of that nitrogen that's applied, whether it's manure or fertilizer, in the ammonium form, that has a positive charge that's attracted to the soil and it won't move with water, which is what we really would like to have. If we're applying anhydrous, it's N-Serve. If we're applying manure, it's basically a really important component to have Instinct in that. Instinct is the nitropyrin, the nitrogen stabilizer that basically, for a period of time, it inhibits the bacteria that converts that ammonium to nitrite, which is then converted to nitrate. That's the mobile form we're trying to stay away from. If we get soils that are below 50 degrees, that activity doesn't stop, it just slows down considerably, and once we get below 50 and stay there, our risk of having conversion this fall really slows down. That's what we'd really like to do if we can. That goes for any DAP or MAP as well. That's an ammonium form of nitrogen that's coming with that. If we have the same process, it could happen to that, so that's why we really like to wait until the soils cool down to apply a lot of that as well, for the same reasons. The nitrogen stabilizers are really helpful in the fall, and if we have to put manure on this early, we can probably increase our rates of that nitrogen stabilizer to last a little longer when it's this warm, and I think we're going to be wanting to consider that. I would caution you guys to be putting it on now with this calendar date in our soil temps, but if you have to, visit with your CFE agronomist and figure out what rates might need to be applied of those stabilizers to probably last a little longer. Again, we talked about nitrogens being quite a bit more expensive now than it has been, so it's going to be even more so important to control that loss so we don't sacrifice yield next year. We also have more moisture in our soils right now than we did a year ago at this date, so we don't take as much moisture to get into the soil and move through the profile into the tile lines and gone as we would have a year ago. So I just wanted to touch on that. We have a lot of things at risk if we're applying this early, so we want to try and mitigate that risk with, I guess I call the nitrogen stabilizers a good insurance policy if done correctly. They're not bulletproof, there's no guarantees, but an insurance policy is never guaranteed to return either, but they really are helpful to have when they're needed, and it basically saves you from some significant losses, which are a definite potential going into next year if we don't pay attention to the details. So I guess with that, that's this week's Field Friday segment, and we'll see you next week.